I would like to call the January 10th, 2024 City Council regular meeting to order. Will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
Should I call the roll?
Oh, knew I was missing something. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Carey,
Present.
Chilson,
Present.
Hutchings. Here. Nelson,
Present.
Parker. Yes. Wackler,
Present.
Cassidy.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, may I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I would move to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
And thank you, Mr. Carey, for the second. Are there any changes to the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing none, would the clerk please read the consent agenda?
December 13th, 2023 council meeting minutes. Ordinance 2024-001, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $36,000 in the utility fund for an increase in fees for the disposal of dewatered biosolids, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing on January 24th. Ordinance 2024-002, amending section 1710-230 rural residential district and section 1710-240 single-family, two-family residential district to allow daycare centers as permitted principal uses, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing on January 24th. Ordinance 2024-003, amending section 1710-250 multifamily residential district to update the minimum lot size general standards, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing January 24, 2024. Resolution 2024-001, commending the Soldotna High School girls wrestling team for winning the 2023 state championship title, sponsored by Mayor and Councilmember Carey. Resolution 2024-002, approving amendments to the clerk's office and Parks and Recreation retention schedules, sponsored by the city clerk. Action Memorandum 2024-001, cancellation of the March 13th and August 14th, 2024 regular council meetings. Action Memorandum 2024-002, mayoral appointment to the Airport Commission. That is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the items just read by the clerk? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item just read by the city clerk? If not, I'll take a look at Zoom. And I see no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the approval of the agenda and consent agenda is back before the council. Are there any council objections to approving the agenda and consent agenda? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved by unanimous consent. At this time, I will step forward with Mr. Carey. All the wrestlers that stand up.
He doesn't bite. You guys can come closer. Go in for the photo op.
You might invite the coaches as well. And we need the coaches also.
Coaches?
Yeah, and even managers. Excellent.
My granddaughter used to wrestle. She was
That's right.
kind of
All the things,
out,
all the hats.
out this year with injuries. So, resolution 2024-001, a resolution commending the Soldotna High School girls wrestling team for winning the 2023 state championship title. Whereas the Alaska School Activities Association, ASAA, held the 2023 State Division II Wrestling Tournament in Anchorage, Alaska, at the Alaska Airlines Center on December 16th, 2023. Whereas they also set the record for whereas the Soldotna High School girls wrestling team scored 212 points to win the title. And whereas they also set the record for most points scored at state since ASAA started girls team scores in 2017. And whereas Soldotna's Caitlin McAnally won the most outstanding wrestler title under the guidance of head coach Pete Dickinson and assistant Max LeClaire and Phil Leck. And whereas Caitlin, a senior, won a state title in just her second year of wrestling, defeating a previously undefeated returning state champion. Whereas the Soldotna Stars won 5 out of 5 matches, with Jessica LeClaire winning 100 pounds, Valerie McAnally winning 107 pounds, Rowan Peck winning 120, Caitlin McAnally winning 132, and Daisy Hannevold winning 138. The 5 girls mentioned in winning their state championship final matches brought home the most state wrestling champions in school history. And whereas also placing for Soldotna were Meg Roberts in 3rd at 235, Megan Whittam in 4th at 100, Angela Shafaria, I'm going to mess that one up. Okay.
Yeah.
At 6th at 114, and Elisa McDonald in 6th at 165. And whereas Sohai girls title was the first state wrestling team title for Sohai and the first girls title for the peninsula. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council in the City of Soldotna, Alaska, that the Soldotna City Council commends the Soldotna High School girls wrestling team for their outstanding performance in winning the 2023 Division II title championship. This resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption and adopted by the City Council on the 10th day of January, 2024. Congratulations, ladies. You've done a fantastic job. You brought a lot of honor to Soldotna. And then from a former coach. And coach to step up here, we'll get a picture. I'm going to try to get a picture from everybody around here. Yep. Yep.
Max, come on.
Come on, guys, everybody. Just come on around. I know somebody's got a camera.
Okay, you guys ready?
I promise not to bring anything else.
Somebody's dad.
Good job.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We'll give everyone a chance to leave before we start again. That, Okay, we'll get started here again. Maybe not. I think we're having a wrestling match out there. Okay, moving right along. The next item on the agenda is public comments and presentation. Now, items that, other than those appearing on the agenda. And there's 3 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes aggregate. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you'd like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jason Floyd. I'm the owner of Amocan Coffee Social Club located at 35559 Kenai Spur Highway in Soldotna. And I'm here to speak specifically about the Queer New Year event that was scheduled for Saturday, in which one performer, among many others, were named. The one performer named Ivana Kishikok, I believe, was in violation of your Title IX ordinance for adult business. Now, Soldotna Pride, I understand, was the sponsor of this event, and they're a nonprofit. And your ordinance addresses commercial enterprises. But the city was going to host Miss, I won't repeat her name, and the rest of the crew over at the Soldotna Elementary, and that was published. That name was published on a sign, a brochure that was handed around, and specifically under Section 8 in Chapter 10 of the statute, it says, "No adult business shall be operated in any manner that permits the observation of any persons or material depicting," and this is important here, describing, which the performer's name described, or relating to specified sexual activities or specified anatomical areas inside the premises. This was going to happen in our taxpayer-funded facility. From any public way or from any location outside the building or area of such establishment. This provision shall apply to any merchandise, display, decoration, sign, show window, or other opening. Now, I understand people want to be sensitive to art. And I think art is very subjective, and there's stuff that I wouldn't support as art. But it's clear in the performer's name that there's more going on here than art. And the statute or your ordinance does not address nonprofits. It only addresses commercial entities. And I would like to suggest 3 things. I would like to suggest that there be a section including nonprofits and not-for-profit events that, if conducted by a commercial enterprise, would otherwise fall under Title IX. That nonprofits not be excluded by the provisions included in this ordinance. Second, that specific broad and prohibition on use of all taxpayer-funded facilities for use in facilitating these types of events or activities covered by Title IX, Chapter 10 be prohibited, not just parks and some of the other public spaces identified, but all public buildings and spaces that are paid for by the taxpayer. And finally, if I may have just a couple seconds longer. And third, that no third-party facilitation of events organized or sponsored by a non-commercial entity, hosted by a commercial entity, would be allowed if it would otherwise be restricted by this ordinance. There should not be a workaround for organizations who make these types of public displays, even if they're doing it for free, because I think it speaks to the spirit of this ordinance that we want to have a healthy, safe community for our children. And I appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Could you please provide us a copy of that to make sure we have it?
Of the ordinance?
No, of the suggestions you had there. Thank you.
So that was written on my lap, if you can't read it.
If the clerk can read my handwriting. she'll
Yeah,
read
there we
anybody's.
go.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Okay.
There anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dennis Murray, Soldotna. First of all, I'd like to thank those who worked to cancel the drag queen event at the Soldotna Public Library on January 6th. I would also like to thank the police department for their management of the protest at the library on January 6th as well, and acknowledge the library staff were put in a very difficult position by this situation. I'm here tonight to advocate for the protection of children in the community. 116 community members signed a petition advocating for that position. The city's ordinance, as discussed by the earlier speakers, speaks to adult cabaret entertainment, including impersonation. Importantly, the ordinance restricts the entertainment to adults by the very nature of what it says is adult. It says adult business, which is a good point that the earlier speaker makes. And it says that the ordinance applies to all citizens. It's not directed at any specific group. It's all citizens, whatever their situation. And that's consistent with the protection of children from such activities. However, from my reading of the article in the Clarion last week, it's apparent that the city's attorney does not believe the ordinance applies in this circumstance. That's unfortunate. The city strives to be a welcoming and orderly place for community gatherings and activities. Therefore, my suggestion would be, in order to protect children from sexualized behavior, I would tonight want to advocate with the council that you establish a working group of community members to examine the concern about children and offer the council solutions that would maintain public standards for orderly freedom. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Sure.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Toby Burke. I live mile 12 K Beach Road, Bowie Avenue, which of course is outside the jurisdiction of Soldotna. My concerns again were what went on January 6th, or that was planned to go on January 6th. And again, I refer back to the city's ordinance 910 about, that regulates adult businesses and activities. And again, I would like to, again, just to reinforce that under that ordinance where it speaks of adult cabaret, again, it mentions topless dancers, strippers, male or female impersonators, and similar entertainers. And again, I say that in that definition, it is inherent that they are adult entertainment. Now, I know they have another definition where adult entertainment is defined, but the point I guess I'm trying to make here is, irrespective of what behavior that they're engaged in, even if it's not what they call sexual, or I should say specifically as defined in the ordinance, adult entertainment, which is sexualized performance. I'm saying even if they're not engaged in a specifically sexualized performance, by the very nature of who they are, I'm saying a dancer, a stripper, male or female impersonator, that is for adults. Because, and the example I'll draw is, even if you had a Chippendale dancer or a Playboy bunny saying, teaching kids in a public venue how to brush their teeth, I would say that is not appropriate. Because of course the way they dress, their role is to titillate, with, like I said, whether it's a Chippendale dancer, a Playboy bunny, exotic dancer, and that by the very nature of who they are. Like I said, even if they were just teaching someone how to brush their teeth, I'd say that it was inappropriate that those people are there to do that thing. So it doesn't have to necessarily be that they're engaged in exotic dance. And I think, is this a restriction on freedom of speech? Yes, it is. But it's a restriction that they have found again and again is appropriate when it comes to protecting the young. I think that's where a lot of people are coming from. I don't think this is supposed to target any one group. This is across the board, whether it be a heterosexual audience, homosexual, transgender. This is a statute that benefits everyone. High standards of public decency benefit every man, woman, and child. I think that's common sense, and I think that common sense can appeal to a wide audience. That's really what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Anyone else in the audience?
Just a quick read
Yep,
here.
please state your name and address. for the
Roy
record.
Manatra.
You have 3 minutes.
I live off K Beach Road off of Daisy Avenue. You need the address?
We need your name again. We
Oh,
didn't hear.
Roy Manatra, Minatra.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, I'm also here about the drag queen exposition that had occurred here in the Soldotna, Kenai area. And I attended the Saturday, January 6th vigil at the Soldotna Library, and I was roughly there 90 minutes and speaking with the folks there. And one of the participants leading others in prayer, many heads were bowed. After speaking with several individuals through the event, everyone had agreed upon that they did not want the children exposed to drag queen story hour at the library or anywhere else on public property. And there were over 100 people there at the event. And of course, why, you ask? Well, because nobody in their right mind would expose children to men that dress up as women and pretend that it's totally normal, because it is not. What happens when your 6-year-old asks, "Hi, my name is Lucy," and the reply is, "Well, hi, Lucy, my name is Ivana," whatever. I mean, we're talking about a grown man here talking to children like that. So, I ask, is that decency? Is that morality? I mean, you make the choice. But the people that engage in attracting children to events such as these, in my opinion, are sexual adult entertainers. And our children should never be exposed to lewd and lascivious conduct, which their venue implies. So I also want to thank Chief Meek of and his officers of SPD that were there, because they did an outstanding job. And the library staff were very cooperative, and basically nobody really, it was a very, very cordial visitation by everyone. So that's pretty much all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, I am Nick Connor. I own a couple of properties in Soldotna on Cahill Avenue. I also own Nick's Auto Glass, which is just down the road from one of the best restaurants called the Duck Inn, my favorite places. So I got the chance to go to, speaking of the library, go to the Friends of the Library. They had a meeting today. And what a great group of women you guys have over there. They do amazing things with the public. I learned so much. They even allowed kids to come in after it's closed, and they play tag. They play with Nerf, balls and stuff. They have these mother work areas where there's a crib attached to a work area with a desk. They have a gorgeous fireplace over there. Their rules are very lax when it comes to teenagers. Teenagers really feel comfortable. They do arts and crafts. I would really like you guys to reach out to them and have them come and present, because they did a lot of work making a presentation, and there was not a lot of people there. It was me and another gentleman, other than the board members for the library friends. And they spent a lot of work on that, and I think it'd be really good for the public to see what the library does over there. I've been hearing the comments here tonight about the drag queen. I have family that are members of the Pride community, and I respect their First Amendment right to say the things they're saying. I respectfully disagree with them. And if this is really about the safety of children, statistically, children are much more vulnerable by their fathers and uncles and members of the church to be molested than they are a gentleman dressing up and playing pretend with a bunch of kids. They used to do this back in the time, a long, long time ago. Most of you guys weren't even born then. Maybe a couple of you were. It was during Shakespearean times, where they were all men actors and they would dress up as women. And the information I found online, it is cartoonish, it is fun. And if any of the people don't want to take their kids to it, don't. But I think it's important for people to be able to express themselves. And I don't think there's anything bad that's going to happen in a library in front of everybody with these children, other than them giggle and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pam? Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Cassidy Herding. I'm from Kenai, recently of Kenai. I'm here to speak in support of the Drag Queen Story Hour. I want to go on the record because I know there's a lot of comments against it. I want to speak to the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and the freedom to congregate, all of which were demonstrated by this activity, which has been postponed due to pressure, some of it quite vulgar itself, in retaliation as people were trying to shut that event down, which was shut down or temporarily postponed because they actually feared for the safety of the performers, which I find rather ironic that people are supposedly protecting children by threatening and librarians and the performers and the organizers of that event, which is hypocritical in my view. I think, as seen in the dozens of films that have been featuring men dressed as women, from Mrs. Doubtfire, a longtime childhood favorite of many kids, to White Girls, to Tootsie, Some Like It Hot, to the Saturday Night Live Coffee Talk. It is more about entertainment, expression, the joy of music and dance and fun. Drag queens are not grooming children. They are not pedophiles. I do understand why so many people are afraid of drag queens and people who are non-gender conforming in general, that by their very existence, by their very presence, they make fun of the societal norms and hypocrisies that many people swear by and live by. The hypocrisy of people who believe in the freedom of speech and freedom of expression only when it applies to themselves and to others whose opinions are the same. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Anyone else here in the chambers wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? I see them. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to scoot over to Zoom, and we have one speaker on Zoom, 5783. Are you there? Number 5783. If you would unmute.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Michelle Vasquez. I live in Soldotna, and I am a member of the Soldotna Pride Council. It's been very interesting listening to all of the comments tonight, and I must correct some of the information that you've been hearing. First and foremost, Ivana, she was not going to go to the library. She was going to be one of the performers at the Beau Bar that night. That was not made clear on the first flyer or the second flyer that we put out. And, but just to make it clear to everyone there, Ivana was never going to appear at the library, period. The drag person that was going to appear at the library is a drag king, not a drag queen, plus some local readers. We postponed this event because of the threats, vile, ugly, disgusting comments that were made on Facebook and other social media. We felt, the Pride Council felt that it was a great risk to safety to the people who were attending. And I'm talking about the children and their parents. When I read that people are talking about bringing guns to the library and screaming during the reading of books to children, I could not imagine anything more terrifying than having a bunch of adults screaming and with guns on in a library. So that is the reason why we decided to postpone, and I mean postpone. We have abided by every rule that the library puts forward. We submitted an application. It was approved. We submitted a list of books. It was approved. This was for children and their parents and other family members to attend, to have books read to them, period, full stop. Nothing else, no sexualizing, dancing, nothing like that. It was reading books to children. I am sorry that some of you do not like it or do not approve, but we in the Soldotna Pride Group, the Soldotna Pride Council, every human being in the country of the United States has a right to the First Amendment, to freely express ourselves, to freely assemble, freedom from a religion and freedom of religion. I heard you say that you prayed at the library. That's great. I support your First Amendment right to do that. But we also have the First Amendment right to freely assemble and express ourselves. And if you don't want to bring your children or your grandchildren, don't. But you cannot stop us from existing in this world. Basically, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to straighten the record, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Question?
Mr. Carey.
Thank you for the speaker. I'm wondering, because this is enhancement, elaboration I wasn't aware of. Could you give me the names of the books that were going to be read? Yes? The request is, could she submit them? So, Mr. Mayor, if I could request that we be provided the names of the books.
She has the names. If you don't have them there.
I'm sorry, are you speaking to me?
Yes. Mr. Carey was requesting the name of the books that were going to be read.
I do not have the list. The list was not compiled by me. It was compiled by another member of the Pride Council, but it was submitted to the library for approval. So the library does have the list of books, and they did approve the list of books.
All right, thank you. We'll ask the library for that list.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in the chambers wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none and seeing no more hands raised, this portion of the agenda is done. We'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda, Assembly and Legislative Reports. Are there any representatives from the borough or state in attendance who would like to speak? And for those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. I see no state or borough representatives here, and I see none on Zoom. So we will move on to the next agenda item, which is number 6, public hearing, testimony limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Ordinance 2023-040, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $4,455.71 in general fund for forfeited property, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to enact?
I'll
I'll make a motion to enact ordinance 2023-040, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $4,455.71 in the general fund for profited city property.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Carey, for the second. Report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The funds are from forfeits and criminal cases, and the police department intends on using those funds to acquire additional tasers.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Is there anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2023-040? Seeing none, I'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Are there any council comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Parker?
Yes.
Carey?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Chilson?
Yes.
Wackler?
Yes.
Hutchings?
Yes.
Cassidy?
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-040 passes on a 6-0 vote. Moving on to the next agenda items. We have covered all of the new business under the consent agenda. And next is mayor and council reports. Mayor's report and proclamation. I just want to wish everyone a happy and prosperous new year, and looking forward to another year. And if it goes as quick as this last one went, it'll be over in about 30 days. But that's all I really have to say. I thank all of our employees for all they've done over the year, and the street crew is doing a great job on getting things cleaned up, moved around, and out of here. And hopefully or at least I wish that any snowstorms coming go to Anchorage and bypass us. So, thank you. Next item is council reports on boards and commissions. Development Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. Mr. Chilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board just recently met on the 4th. During that meeting, we welcomed a couple new advisory board members, and then the body selected their new chair. Penny Vodla was selected to retain the spot of chair for that advisory board. Additionally, that night, a couple other items we worked through, the big one being a field house project update provided by CO and Kyle. Very comprehensive overview. Just some highlights from that. Some of the things that are kind of new to me that I observed, discussed were parking. As it stands right now, we have about 400 parking spots at the sports center, and through this project, we'll be expanding that by adding an additional 181 spots. And then there's a lot of discussion on coloration for just how the visual design of the building should look. And one of the proposed designs that was put forward is they call it the river theme. And there's a lot of turquoise and blue and gray and browns and oranges that are representative of the colors of salmon and the river that are so iconic to the city of Soldotna. And there's a lot of positive feedback to that provided by the board, although no final decision was made on that at that point in time. Additional ongoings in the Parks Department. There's a new Walk with the Dock program that's been going on once a month, I believe, over at the Sports Center, where I believe it's first Wednesday or maybe the last Wednesday of the month. You can show up at 7:30 a.m. and there's a big community walk with local doctors from the hospital and get the people out and give them an opportunity to kind of talk life and health with doctors. And it's been very, very successful. They continue to work on ice around town. They are setting up the skate track at Arc Lake. That's kind of a work in progress. It sounds like it's getting closer, but not quite there yet. But they have been having a lot of success with the Soldotna Elementary rink. Conditions over there have been great. And they just recently held an event, I think, in partnership with Soldotna Elementary PTA to get community members out and riding free skates and hot chocolate. And it sounds like it was a very successful event. Ongoing efforts for beetle kill removal are proceeding forward. They've removed, I believe, 500 cords of wood from Centennial Park, just a tremendous amount of dead trees in there that have been being pulled out. And then we'll soon be pivoting over to Swiftwater, Rotary, and Parker Parks to continue tree removal in those areas. And then additionally, we have 4 different state hockey tournaments for different genders and divisions coming through to Soldotna, soon to be hosted at the Sports Center. So that's really exciting news. It just means a large amount of people coming through the community to stay in our hotels and participate in that. So that should be a good injection of economic activity for the city. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. There are any questions for Mr. Chilson? Seeing none, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, and that's City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The information in your packet contains a memo from the utility manager, Mike Allen, who's here this evening. The memo is circling back to you in August. There was information provided about the expansion charges, and at that time, you requested additional data, and the memo in the packet brings that data to you. And if there are specific questions regarding the utility operations, comparison with other utilities and so on and so forth, Mike is here to speak to that. I do want to note that on page 83, much like the first recommendation, the current recommendation is continue as we are. However, you have the ability to make any changes should you do so.
Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, item 10, public comments. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the chambers wishing to speak on any item? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Well, good evening, council and staff. My name is Scott Rosen. I live off of K Beach, and we brought to the council, as the city manager mentioned a few months ago, the idea of the expansion charges. And having read the report that was put together, and it still feels very much like a not common practice in Alaska. I think the data that we provided a few months ago is no different than the information that was provided in the letter. It feels very much like double taxation to me, to have, fees that are that exorbitant, just based on the communities within the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And just wanted to kind of refresh the council and what I feel is not productive or beneficial for continuous growth in the community we live in. It's very expensive to build a building, as we're experiencing right now, and to burden potential business owners or property owners with undue fees like that just seems irresponsible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything from the council? Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to make any comments? Sir, please step forward and state your name.
About anything?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I am still Nick Connor. I wrote this, but I'm going to try to chill it down a little bit, so bear with me. I'm here to discuss Chief Meeks. I did get to meet with him last week. I apologize for some of the comments I made last month. I was wrong about some of those things, but most importantly, I was right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Johnny. There's an article online from Santa Fe, New Mexico, in which Mr. Meeks is quoted as saying, his own words, "I can sum up the problem with one word, apathy." And this is in regards to a evidence locker problem in which they're still recovering from. There was a huge issue there. Chief Meeks' words were apathy. What I see in the Soldotna Police Department right now is also apathy. I have brought up concerns and I have been met with apathy by Chief Meeks. The pro-police artwork in the lobby was met with an email from Chief Meeks stating the artwork has been there for 20 years, so he has no concern to look into the issue. Chief Meeks did not want to remove his blue flag of tyranny because he wore it for 15 years. Those were his words, 15 years. My research shows that the blue line flag wasn't even around before 2014. And according to the pictures on the Center Colorado Facebook page, he didn't start wearing it until after George Floyd was killed. I can't verify that. It's ironic that Meeks is so apathetic to the concerns today when he knows the gravity apathy can bring. So, excuse me. He knows the gravity apathy can have in bringing a murderer to justice. In the same article, Chief Meeks also said he believes police officers become officers for right reasons. In his words, less than 0.1% would do something dirty. How apathetic can someone be to the real problems with law enforcement? How unconcerned Meeks is to the truth. Alaska does not allow the public to view personal files of the police, and they investigate themselves for misconduct. Dozens of police officers in Alaska have worked in towns that had criminal records and should have been disqualified for sexual abuse and domestic violence. Chief, and I don't want to say the rest of it because I got a little terse at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Sir, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Well, I would just like to, my name is Jason Floyd, again, owner of Ammo Can Coffee Social Club, located 35559 Kenai Spur Highway in Soldotna. I would like to give a different perspective of Chief Meeks. Just shortly after Chief Meeks arrived in town, my business was vandalized. Somebody decided in the dark of night, dressed in Antifa uniform, to stand outside my business and spray paint the word traitor or traitors across all the picture glass windows on the building. I don't own that building. It's a different business owner. I just lease the space. They went further to glue the locks on my front door with crazy glue so they could not be used and they could not be turned, which actually is a felony in the state of Alaska to do that. When I requested the assistance of the Soldotna Police Department and Chief Meeks, they were very responsive. And in my mind, what we suffered was a hate crime because we choose to have a conservative cultural perspective and promote that in our business. And while there are some issues that are divisive in our community, one of the things I would urge is that the tribalism between the left and the right actually be resolved by people sitting down and having conversations again at a coffee table. I would prefer that was my coffee table, but you can go to Starbucks. There's like 3 of them around, and Kaladi Brothers, and a whole host of other coffee places. But we can be neighbors in Soldotna, and we don't need to throw grenades at each other when we don't like things. We can sit down and have well-reasoned conversations. I appreciate that about the chief. I appreciate that about the officers that have responded when people have come into my business and threatened my family because they don't like our political positions. I've had people come in and take photos of my children. I've had people come in and tell my entire dining room, we're just here to see the white supremacists. So there's a lot of really troubling things happening in this community. I grew up in Nikiski, not far from here, and my childhood was not particularly sheltered, but I do remember when I had friends from Democrat families and friends from Libertarian families and friends from, dare I say, Alaska Independence Party families, and we all got along. And our parents could go to softball games and sit on the same side of the bleachers and have conversations. It doesn't feel like that anymore in this community, at least from where I'm sitting. So I would just urge civility. And whatever you do, please don't defund the police. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, I see one hand raised on Zoom, and that is 5783 again. If you hear me, you're up, so please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, yes, thank you. This is Michelle Vasquez again, Pride Council member. I ran out of time and I wanted to take this moment to thank the city manager for putting out the statement that she did. And also I would like to thank the staff at the library. I'm sure they fielded a lot of phone calls. And I'm sure that the city of Soldotna fielded a lot of phone calls about the postponed event on Saturday. I just wanted to extend my thanks and my appreciation for everyone who has dealt with so much over the last several days. And that's really all I needed to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. So that ends the public comments. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is council comments. And tonight we will start with Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney, and I want to thank everybody who came out tonight and provided their comments. I have to say, I agree with Mr. Floyd. There is different elements in the community, and we need to figure out a way how we can work together and agree to disagree, be civil, and in those areas where we agree to disagree, let's try to find areas where we can come together, because this is a good community and people do want to work together. And in the future, I may be coming up with some more ideas on ways that we can have coffee and get together and chat and talk about the areas where we have these concerns. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Floyd, for what you said. Thank you. And I wish everybody a happy 2024. 2023 did go by really fast, and let's just look forward to a very happy 2024 and where we're working together for the betterment of the community.
Mr. Chilson.
No comments this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson.
And no comments either. Thank you.
Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always have comments. First of all, I'd really like to thank the, I'm gonna say the teachers, the staff, the coaches, the parents, and all the athletes that are involved with the Soldotna High School wrestling, women's wrestling team. And again, the male wrestling team also reinforces, again, all of the wrestling squads. And so again, it was really nice to see them here. It was very nice to hear of their state championship. Second, civility.
This just doesn't seem to be your evening.
It's good. I wasn't very civil.
You get another 3 minutes.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, I'm sure glad. I found it very distressing to listen to someone on a radio program besmirch the city of Soldotna a week ago Tuesday. And again, the diatribes against everyone that lives here, everyone involved in government, everyone. Again, and the label was on Soldotna as a whole, as he kept saying, Soldotna light. And again, I do not find it helpful to build civility or to promote discussion of issues in which there is disagreement by simply castigating one entire community. Again, I was somewhat, I was offended to listen to that program and have it go on for a few days. I would hope, possibly with the council person to my left, that we could work on the process for formation of the working group that was mentioned, dealing with community standards and what is appropriate in terms of presentation to children on city property. So again, I'm requesting to be provided the process by which a working group can be formed. Again, at least in my thinking, it would be something that the mayor would form, but again, I need to know the process. And so that again, this is a standard thing. This is not, there's no doubt in my mind that there is a stated method by which this can be done. I imagine there's actually even some options. The administration can form groups, again, the council, the mayor. We have a situation that is not going to go away if we do nothing about it, except let it be dealt with through different strategies. I believe our responsibility as the leaders of this city is to make sure that when there is a issue, my understanding, the petition had well over 100 signatures on it, voicing their displeasure, to say the least, in terms of this event that was scheduled. Again, I think it's important. There's been different knowledge in terms of whether or not it was rented or not. In my discussion with the city manager, this was not something that was rented. This was something that could be signed up. It was during regular hours. If you ask to use facilities after hours, then a rental can be brought into play. But there was no money exchanged. The city of Solana was provided no money in allowing this event to be scheduled. And so I would hope that we could continue to work on ways in which we can certainly promote civility, but I also believe we have a right to discuss what are community standards in this community. Thank you.
Ms. Wexler.
I was going to make no comment, but I feel like I have to. So, a lot of discussion has come up about the Pride event that transpired. And I think a lot of the upset has come from a lot of misinformation and just not digging into finding out what the truth is and just kind of digging your heels into the surface of it. And yeah, it was reiterated that one of the performers that had an unfortunately inappropriate name was not going to be at the library. It was not at the school. It was not going to be. That was an evening performance that actually happened in Kenai. And all the ire was pointed towards Soldotna for some reason, even though it's a peninsula-wide situation. But talking about forming working groups and changing rules, I think it's really important that I truly believe that the freedoms afforded to us are what make living in a community colorful and beautiful. And I just want to be really careful when we're talking about picking away at speech and books and organizations and who's allowed and who's not allowed to be in public spaces. I think it's really important to acknowledge as soon as you start limiting freedoms, you need to be able to, for every sentence you say, you need to be able to replace that entity that you want to ban from an entity, replace it with something that you're knowledgeable about, replace it with Pentecostal, replace it with Catholic. And if you're not comfortable saying that sentence, replacing the word or the person that you don't want to be involved in your community with that, then I think you're acknowledging that it's not something that we can do. I know a lot of people have talked about inclusivity and diversity, but I think the intention with the event is to tell people who do exist in the community that they are loved and they are welcome. And the organizers of the event intended for it to be a space where people who do exist in this community can be welcomed and see each other. And it backfired, unfortunately. It backfired in that they decided to cancel it because they did not see that that view would be expressed. They saw that the people who they invited wouldn't hear that. And so that's why it was postponed to a different time where they could be heard. And I hope that in the future, we can have a dialogue and an open discussion where we can have a safe environment. The library is a public space. It's really important that we treat it as a public space that is available, inclusive to everybody. So thank you for your time and thank you for your comments.
Ms. Hutchings.
Well, I was going to probably try and keep my mouth shut tonight, but I will tell you, I have had friends, relatives, and coworkers from the time I was very young that belonged to the LGBT community. I never felt threatened. They never threatened anybody that I ever saw. And I am so, so sad that we have people that don't even try to discuss anything with anybody. We're not hurting children. I mean, are you going to deny Sesame Street characters? How do you know whether it's a man or a woman in those costumes? And I get very, very upset when I hear all of the threatening and bodily harm, and the fact that we had 50 people come to the library thinking that we were going to be doing something wrong. I am disgusted is what I am, because I have lived here most of my life. I have embraced every group that there is. And when I see, even though I might not agree with you, I'm not going to threaten you. And I think that is the thing that upset me the most, are the threats. And when you say you're protecting children, these children are in homes with parents that think like this. This is their lifestyle. They're not hurting those children. Your children don't have to go there. That's fine. But you need to be more inclusive. We all have rights, and your rights don't trump my rights or their rights. That's all I've got.
Mr. Cassidy.
School's not over yet. I hope everyone had a good Christmas break, and well, whatever. I know everyone's schedule is different, but whatever form of rest you got over the Christmas season, I hope it was nice. It was good to see all the wrestlers here. I've seen them practice. My brother does wrestling. He's a freshman this year. They work really hard and they earned that title. It's unfortunate that the guys, I mean, the boys did amazing. They got third, and they had, I think it was 11 people who were pulled from the team over the season, either due to injuries or they were, I think one or two might have been ineligible, but 11 of some of their best guys were off the team for state, and they still got third. So both sides of the wrestling team did really well. And I'm really excited for the basketball results. I know that I think we've played one or two games. I'm not caught up on the results for those. I know skiing's going. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited to hear about how these sports do. Our student council is busy planning prom and planning events. Our government class, I mentioned this last time, our government classes, primarily seniors, are working to solve problems with our borough and with our school in general. And I really hope some of their projects come to fruition, because as a student council, I've learned that it's really an event planning class, because we're planning dances, we're planning events, and there are different things. But our government class is actually doing a good thing where they're going to issues in our community, particularly around the school, because we as students, that's our full-time, that's our life. But what they do is they bring people in and they talk about these issues. This idea of talking to people about issues, whether you're for it or against it, or you want change or you don't, this is good. We shouldn't fight about things, because contention is not, I don't believe that contention gets people anywhere. Whether you are for or against an idea, whether you want change or not, throwing bricks, throwing grenades, or even just harsh words at other people. It's not going to get anything done. And I think that the kids in this community, the kids in my school, the kids I compete against, and I laugh with in Kenai, all of us are the same, and we all learn from the adults in our lives. Us as kids, seeing adults fight over things and be contentious with one another is only going to make things worse for my generation. The kids I see in school fighting over things, swearing at each other, arguing over these useless things that might even only exist in high school. That's not the world we want to live in. So I'm really glad that people from both sides of this discussion about the January 6th event came in and talked about it. As much as people want this event or don't want this event or things like it, talking about it is the only way to get things done. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Cassidy. Moving on to the next agenda item is executive session, and there is no reason for one this evening. Next is meeting announcements. January 16th, 2024, Library Advisory Board meeting at 5:15 p.m. January 24th, 2024, City Council work session on the Field House at 5 p.m. January 24th, 2024, City Council meeting at 6 p.m. And seeing nothing further on our agenda, we are adjourned.